Welcome back to Unraveled Game Thoughts. I am finally getting back to my year reviews of top 10 games, or not reviews really, just what I deem the top 10 games from a given year. I am now on 2016, so that's what we're looking at today. Hopefully you can see the BGG page here. I don't necessarily have to play a game to include it in the top 10, but if I haven't played a game and it's way down this list and I look at the rating, the overall ratings in the 2000s, the likelihood of it making top 10 for that year is pretty tough. I'd have a hard time justifying it. If it's a game that I haven't played, I'm often basing why I'm ranking it in the top 10 and maybe where I'm ranking it kind of has to do with more friends and other gamers in my gaming groups who have played these games and given their opinions on them. So if there's enough people that are kind of played a game for a lot and talk about how great it is, I'll bump it up maybe slightly. If it's a game that I just really personally like a lot, I'm more than likely going to put it higher on the top 10, even if there's another game that people just love and adore. It may not make, I might not put it as high up as others might. A good example here might be Arkham Horror, the card game, number 26 overall. I wouldn't say that's going to rank the way I would rank that one a little lower. I haven't personally played it. I do know a lot of people that have said how much they like it. I think it's probably a great game. It's just not going to be as high for me as it might be for others, and I might speak to that just a little bit, but obviously this is highly subjective. So just, kind of making up my list, and if you think that there are games in 2016 you think I'm missing, particularly if there's some game, I would love it if you know of a game that's in the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 overall rank, way down this list to be on page 4 or 5 of 2016, and you're like, this is a great game. If you play it, I think it'd be in your top 10. Tell me. I'd love to hear it. Post it in the comments. I mean, there's what, I don't know, 30,000 some odd games in BGG, of which I have probably played maybe 300 of them, possibly. Probably only have about 60 of them, maybe 70 in my collection. I don't know. I can't remember how big my collection is. But it's not big by comparison, and my experience with games is not large by comparison. Life and other things keep me from just being able to play as much as I want. I've played a lot of newer things on BGA. That's how I get a lot of exposure to new games. And then, occasionally when I can wrangle up a game night or somebody lets me borrow a game, I'll get to try something a little different and test it out. But yeah, point being, my experience is fairly limited. It's very possible for someone to have a game out there that's just exquisite and it's just fallen through the cracks and no one knows about it. So happy to test it out, happy to take a look at it, watch a playthrough, see, try something out if I can get a hold of it. So anyway, 2016, without further ado, let's jump into this list. Number 10 overall is a game that it's in my collection. It was given to me by a friend, and I look forward to playing it. I've read the rules. I've watched some playthroughs. I feel like I've got a general grasp of the game, but I've not actually physically played the game. So I'm putting a little speculation here at number 10. I will say, as I look across this top 10, 2016 was a pretty good year for games in general. But I could see this one, if I actually get it to the table, I could see it moving up, possibly. And that's Lorenzo il Magnifico by, oh my gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. I've actually got the card version over there on my table, but this is by Clemens Franz, and who did this with him? They put one more here, and they didn't put who it was. Vergarino Gigli and Simone Luciani. Those are the designers. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Clemens Franz was the artist. Designer was Flaminia Brasini, Virginio Gigli, and Simone Luciani. So we have some Italian designers here, but it's just a very nice, solid Euro-y game is what it appears to be to me based on the rules and the stuff I've looked into. I definitely would love to play it. I don't know that it's an over-the-top game, but it's ranked number 100 overall. So that's pretty good. And since 2016, this has had some staying power. I think this is considered by quite a few to be a pretty solid game. So I feel like number 10, good, is a good add. At one point, I had Ice Cool in here at the number 10, but I feel like this one's better than Ice Cool. Ice Cool was kind of more of a dexterity game, and I thought it was nice for sort of the type of game it was. I put it in here at number 10 initially because I don't know how many Dexteria games were really out there in 2016, but I think there's probably more than I thought. So I don't know if Ice Cool was quite as unique as I thought it might have been at the time. So Lorenzo Il Magnifico makes number 10. Number 9 is another game that I haven't physically played. I don't know that I've actually been in a situation where I could play this game, but I would very much love to play this Vital Lacerda game, and that is Vinhos Deluxe Edition. I don't know how much difference there is between the Deluxe Edition and the original edition, but I do like Vital Lacerda games. I think this is one of his earlier designs, but I would love to try it out. I greatly enjoy his games in general, and it'd be interesting to see how this compares with something like Viticulture. I like Viticulture. It's one of my favorite games. Not in my top 10, but it's one of my... it's a game I do love getting to the table to play. Over the years, I think Viticulture has kind of trickled down my list. And I don't know that it's not because it's a bad game or anything. It's just it feels it's slightly nuanced worker placement, but it operates fairly like a regular worker placement game. Although I have all the expansions with Tuscany and the Essential Edition and all that, so I've got a pretty it's the full game, all 4 seasons. Little more variability. I definitely play with the mamas and papas, and I play with the special workers and all that. And I think that makes the game a lot of fun. Gives it a lot more enjoyment when playing. I'm not as big a fan with just original Viticulture, where you don't have all those variable elements. I'll play it a few times on BGA, but it's not as engaging to me, and would be much farther down my list if it didn't have some of those expansion materials in it. So I would love to see how Vinhos compares with that. I'm sure it's vastly different. Stonemaier and Vital Lacerda games are quite different, but it would just be, it's a winemaking game, so I feel like thematically there's some interesting comparisons to make, and it'd be fun to do that. That is number 9. Number 8 is once again a game I haven't played, but I've heard a lot of good things about, and it's been recommended to me by a few folks who have played it. I'm actually looking for it on the list here. It's got to be on this first page. Let's see. Let's do a control. There it is. It was right there. All right. Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition. I would love to try this. It's set in the Arkham Horror, I think, universe, I believe. And it just, number 47 overall is not to be trifled with. But I feel like this is a solid pick at number 8. And when I read through, there are a number of these games that I hadn't played that I would read through not the rules per se, but I might watch a little playthrough of it, and I might kind of try to get a feel like, what does this add to the hobby? Just because it had maybe tried something for the first time, possibly. The closer I get to the current year, the less that's going to happen. But I did not. This is one of the games that I was like, I'd like to play that. That way, if someone was like, "Hey, let's play Mansions of Madness," I would be in a heartbeat, because it sounds like a good, fun, enjoyable game to try out. I don't know that I'd want it in my collection. It doesn't seem like one that would get played a ton at my house, but there are a lot of good games that wouldn't get a lot of play at my house that I would enjoy more if someone else brought them out in another environment. So Mansions of Madness would be one of those. And if you've played this and you have feedback or interesting insights into this game, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, what your experiences are with this. I wonder how many, I feel like this is like up to 6 players or something. 1 to 5, but best at 3 to 4. Okay. This is by Nikki Valens. I'm not familiar with her. I don't know what else she has done. Legacy of Dragonhold, Eldritch Horror. Okay. Okay. Star Wars, Empire versus Rebellion, Quirky Circuits. So she's got a few games here. So I will look forward to trying to get Mansions of Madness to the table someday. That is my number 8. Number 9 is a game that I have played and that I am fairly fond of. There have been some times where I debated the idea of moving on from this game. Why? Because I wasn't sure, because there were other games with a similar mechanic, and this one was a little bit more it lacked a little bit of depth, which is going to come off as ironic when I tell you the game. But over time, it's kind of one of those games where I waned on it for a little bit, and then as time went on, I was like, I kind of like this game a little more than I think. It's fun to try some different things out every time I play, and that's Clank. And this is the original Clank I'm referring to, because generally in this list, I'm not really ranking. If a game has an expansion type of thing, so for instance, Agricola Revised Edition came out this year, I'm not even counting that in my 2016, because Agricola, I think I already did in like 2014 or whenever the first one came out. I'm not redoing the revised, or if it's an expansion, I took out all expansions. So I'm not messing with those. So just as a base game, Clank was a lot of fun. We've had it in our house probably for 3 to 4 years. It's one of the games my son would play with me fairly often, and still would play it. If I ask him to pull it out, he'd be more likely to play this game than other games. It's a deck building game. That's the primary mechanism in the game. You're diving into a dungeon. You're using your deck will either help you move into the dungeon, or help you purchase things, or help you defeat monsters, or get you money that you can then use to purchase other items that are down in the dungeon. You're ultimately trying to get down there, get an artifact, and get back out. And if you can get in, get out, get your artifact, get back out, then if you get out of the dungeon, you get a bonus, 20-point bonus. It's a huge bonus for getting in and getting out. If you don't get out of the dungeon before before that player who gets out first gets to the end of their little track, once they get out of the dungeon, then you're not going to get the 20-point bonus, which is going to be hard to overcome. However, maybe you would have been able to get enough treasure down in the dungeon itself to make up for that 20 points. That is a possibility. So there's a little bit of a risk, push your luck. There's a push your luck element to the game. That is Clank. Good game. Only have one expansion for this one that I picked up in a trade. I do not, haven't really branched out into the other Clank expansions, Acquisitions Incorporated and all that. I know my brother is interested in that. He may or may not be getting that for Christmas this year. We'll see. But that's I'd be interested in trying some of those, but they're not like high on my radar of games I want to explore. But I did think it was a great one for 2016. I will give the original the credit it's due at number 7 on my list. Number 6. Probably some will argue that this is not high enough, but I waver. I have a hard time, and I really honestly need to get the expansion for A Feast for Odin to see if I feel like that expands the various strategies. And the reason I'd put it at 6 and not higher on my list, the reason it's not even higher on my overall top games list is it feels this is why I don't have I can have fun playing a game of chess, but I don't really want to invest a lot of time in chess because eventually it gets to a point where it's like, well, you just have to study the strategy and you got to work the strategies and kind of it's like a mind game with your opponent to figure out what strategy they're trying to do here, and then you mind game them out, and that's a lot of time and energy, and I don't really care anymore at that point. A Feast for Odin feels like, at least the base game, there are really particular strategies that you have to take in order to win the game if you're playing against competitive players. Now, if you're playing against players that don't know the game as well, you can kind of try lots of different things, and you might get, make out okay with that. But I feel like the base game in and of itself is a little bit limited by sort of a channeled strategy approach. I have played around with trying to do some cards that give me a little bit more options and seeing if that could boost my points enough to are the cards really worth it? Because Uwe put tons of cards in that game. I mean, a ton for a worker placement game. And I love that aspect of it. I almost feel like the cards don't help quite enough. Like they should be able to help you do a little bit more in the game than it feels like they do. I've heard that the Norwegians expansion really opens up the game and opens up some of those other strategies. So I think that if I play it with Norwegians, I will enjoy it more, but I don't have Norwegians and I haven't tried it with Norwegians. So it kind of sits on my shelf. But this is definitely a game I can see kind of going the way that Tapestry went for me. Tapestry was much lower on my list, my overall list, up until the Arts and Architecture expansion came out. When that came out, it shot up. I loved it a lot more with that Arts and Architecture expansion and having a whole separate track. It just opened up the game in a way that I really wanted it to be opened up. Feast for Odin is I wonder if Norwegians will do that for A Feast for Odin, where it just opens up the game more to where it's like, this is much more of a sandbox worker placement where there's a lot more variability, and it's not like, oh, this player over here knows the best strategy and will always win because they know exactly what actions to take in what order, and one mistake and you're going to lose to them every time. I like a game that a little bit more. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of luck, but just enough where you can it's not like that one player that knows every single aspect of the game can just kill everybody every time unless they happen to get the right you have to physically thwart that one strategy. And so Feast for Odin, good game. I enjoy playing it, but for now, number 6 for 2016. I can't remember where it fell on my overall list. I think it was in the top 20, so it's still good. Might have been in the top 30. But moving right along, number 5 is a game I have physically owned in my collection twice, but never actually played it. I always got it in sort of an add-on to a trade, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll take it, maybe. And then I would trade it in something else to someone else who was looking for it. And so I just never got it I got it out. I read the rules. I think I got close to playing it one time, but just didn't have somebody with me. And I don't remember it being a solo game. I'd have to look at it again, but it's Arkham Horror, the card game. And I'm sure this is a great game. This actually makes number 5 because of all the people that have told me that it's a great game. Now, what keeps me from probably engaging this game as quickly, and for having gone through my collection as twice and me not playing it, is the theme, that Lovecraft universe is only tertiarily kind of neat to me, but not enough to draw me in that I really want to play. It feels like it just doesn't draw me in. It's like, I don't know, for some people, like, space theme just doesn't hit them. They don't care about a space game, or, you know, nature games, which might not hit them very well. They just don't care. This probably feels like that. It's like, oh, Lovecraft theme, Arkham universe, whatever. So you know, I've almost played the board game. I've almost played the card game, but I've never quite gotten around to doing it. I've heard the board game is really long, 3 or 4 hours or something. So I would need to be in a room with somebody who's willing to teach and just walk through it and be pretty patient. And then I'd play the game. I just am not motivated to learn this game. But that's Arkham Horror. It's number 5. I can't take away the fact that it is very popular. And in 2016, it's hard not to put Arkham Horror in the top 10. I have a hard time justifying that. Of course, there are others here that I'm not putting in my top 10, but I feel like I have some justification. So there you go. Number 4 is, I would call a classic. I almost feel like it shouldn't be considered a 2016. And I think it's because this is one of the rare occasions where I didn't count Dominion, the first edition, because I don't know that anybody plays the first edition. So Dominion second edition is my 2016 ad here. I feel like people really learned about it around this time, and I don't know how many people were playing it before. I'm sure there's some out there, but second edition is where I really found out about it. And this is one of those games that has been in my collection for a while. I've enjoyed it from the very first time I played it. And even though, I mean, it probably hasn't hit our table in a year or 2 years now, maybe 3, but I don't want to get rid of this game. I enjoy this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the fact, and I have probably 3 expansions. I think I have Hinterlands. I think I've got Guilds. I've got Dark Ages, and I feel like there's one more in there that I'm forgetting. But I've got them all kind of in a case where they all sit together, and basically I pull out the deck of cards that's like the single, I want to say it's like a purple card, so it's one for each type. And I love shuffling them all up and just drawing 10 at random, and let's see what we get. And it might be cards that don't make sense together, but I think that's so much fun. You never know what you're going to have to try to build your Dominion out of. And it might be arduous and difficult, and like, oh, we got all 6 cost cards, 10 of them, and then money, and then, oh, how are we going to do this? But I think that's great. So it tests everybody's innate deck building ability, and the playing field is leveled, and you really have to kind of try to work at it to figure out, how do I do this the best way possible so I don't want to end up like a bunch of bad draws, and you know, or get one of those draws where you could draw through half your deck every turn. There's a lot of fun to be had in this game. So Dominion is just a fantastic game. I think it has good staying power. I don't see it leaving my collection. I don't really ever see moving on from it. Somebody'd have to offer me something awfully good for me to get rid of Dominion, because it's not that hard to get to the table if I want to. And there's just so many other new things out there, but I can see a lot of other things coming and going before I would probably get rid of my Dominion collection of Dominion cards. So that is my number 4 for 2016. The next 3 games are they're not, 2 of the next 3 are in my top 10 overall. I think. Actually, I can't remember. One of them is for sure. One of them might have been in my top 20. But number 3 I put for 2016 is Scythe. And I sort of debated whether I should make it higher, like number 2. But I went with number 3 because Scythe I've enjoyed ever since I've owned this game. I've planned so many game nights around Scythe. I think it's a fun game to play. I've got a lot of expansions for it. Probably plays best at about 5 players. That is probably the ideal spot for a game of Scythe. but I do enjoy having the extra factions that people can play around with. I've played the Rise of Fenris, or most of it. I think we're still on the last quest or two to finish out the whole game. But it's a fun. The art is just very provocative, and the especially the is it objectives, the little fireplace things you get. Every time I do one of these videos, and I have to think about these, I forget what they're called. Encounters. They're encounters. I've got the expansion encounters, and the expansion encounters offer a lot to be added to the game, and a lot of meat and a lot of diversity in the game. So there's a lot here. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy a good game night of scything. Is that way good to put it? Is it scythe? Is it gaming on a scythe night, or is it scything on a game night? I'm not sure, but it's a lot of fun. So Scythe is my number 3 for 2016. Number 2 for 2016, and I will probably say it's actually the second edition I really like. The first edition's okay. I don't dislike it. But Great Western Trail, I put as my number 2. I believe Scythe and Great Western Trail were in my top 10. And technically the number 1 game I put for 2016 is not in my top 10. But there's reasons that for the years, I kind of think about it a little differently. So number 2, Great Western Trail. I feel like it's a great game. I love the deck management. I love the just the moving, building up the action spaces on the board, the interaction with other players. I think it's a lot of fun. So Great Western Trail is one I can get to the table most any time. I feel like it's got a good game length. I really do want to try the Rails to the North expansion. I think you can add that expansion to the second edition. I wouldn't mind trying Great Western Trails Argentina. It sounds like it has a lot of additional unique features that would be fun to explore. I'm not sure if it's like, do I want to add that to my collection? I don't know what New Zealand will look like. But at one point I was like, I don't think I'll ever add Argentina or New Zealand to the collection. But after hearing some of the, I think it was Candace Harris I heard doing an interview, and she was talking about it. And I've watched another playthrough of somebody else since then. And Great Western Trails Argentina actually looks like it's a different enough game that it wouldn't hurt to have it in the collection. I just have a hard time putting shelf space to a game that's very, very similar to another game, both thematically and mechanically. So that makes it a little tougher for me to consider adding it, but I wouldn't rule it out 100%. But I would like to play it, and if they have it at BGG-Con this year, I will seriously consider getting a play of it to the table. Number one game for 2016. It's not a huge surprise. It's the number 1 game that's already on here for 2016, and that's Terraforming Mars, which is the number 4 game, number 5 game right now overall. Most likely that's because some hotness game is probably in the top 4. Terraforming Mars is a game that has a lot of good staying power. It's a lot of fun. I don't feel like the Ares Expedition, I played it a weekend ago or two, and I didn't feel like that knocked, to me, that doesn't replace Terraforming Mars. To me, Ares Expedition felt a little too light. I didn't like how many green cards, and I don't know if we just got a huge patch of green cards or what, but I didn't feel like the diversity of cards wasn't enough for me. It's too many green cards, not quite enough of the other cards, but it was hard to find that balance. I almost felt like the Ares Expedition needed another card type in there to go along with the card types that were already there, but it already had a ton of cards. So Terraforming Mars, I feel like, is a lot more diversity. I do think it should be played with the Prelude expansion. There are some things that when I played Ares Expedition, I was kind of like, I wish Terraforming Mars did it this way. And some of that was like the way the cards were selected in Ares. and you kept all your cards. You didn't pay for cards, you just kept them. You could always discard a card to get three macro credits. I kind of liked that nuance to the game. But a lot of the other things, I was like, I like Terraforming Mars better. I like the board. Some people like Ares Expedition because it gets rid of the board. I actually like the Terraforming Mars board. Now, that being said, I do feel like in the plays I've had a Terraforming Mars with 4 and 5 players, it seems like it takes a long time. It seems like it takes longer than it should. And I wonder if the game just kind of lends itself to a little bit of AP. But some of that is your game group. And it could be that people just kind of, they're not thinking about what they're going to do next. You know, between turns, they're just, I don't know what they're doing. Talking? Whatever. I talk between turns too, but I'm usually also thinking about what am I going to do in my next turn. But it's a fun game, and I do enjoy it. I like the way the card system builds up. So that is my number 1 for 2016, at least as I would rank. I don't know if ranking is the right word, but I would say what are the best games for 2016. Those are my top 10 overall. Some games I left out, either because I didn't play or like Star Wars Rebellion is, I know, a very highly ranked game. I think I would like this game if I played it. I feel like the Star Wars IP adds to this game. If you took Star Wars off and you made this a game and it was something else that wasn't Star Wars, I think it drops down a lot. Now, I haven't played the game, so mechanism-wise, I couldn't actually tell you that, does it earn its stripes as a game? It probably wouldn't be ranked number 8 overall if it wasn't a good game in and of itself, and the IP of Star Wars just helps it along. But it's a 2-player game. It says 2 to 4 players, but I suspect that this is a lot like some other 2 to 4 player games where it's really 2 players and the second player on each team is just kind of like almost like a third, like an extra third wheel or something like that. It doesn't really, just helps make decisions, but it's not a real 2-player. Like Finding Nemo could be 4-player. Finding Nemo. Sorry, Nemo's War. Not Finding Nemo. Nemo's War can be 4 players, but it's really a 2-player game. So I think this is like that. And the thing that keeps me from like being like just overriding the fact that I haven't played it is that I think there's a lot of really good 2-player games out there that don't take 180 to 240 minutes. So if I'm going to spend 180 to 240 minutes playing a game, I usually want it to be a game when I'm playing with more players than just 2. Now, there are certainly environments that probably folks are pretty much largely playing with 2 players, and so this might be much better in that environment. But there are a lot of other 2-player games that I enjoy playing with Becky when it's just 2 of us, and there are a lot of other games that I would much rather play at more players and just prefer to play games that play more players than 2 generally. So that one didn't make the list. Some other games of note. I've heard of Mechs and Minions, never played it. Heard it's good, but from what I've seen about it, I watched a playthrough of it one time, and I was like, it didn't seem terribly innovative to me. It's ranked 61 overall, which is a little bit better than I would have thought, and maybe I just need to get a play of it sometime. But if you've played it and you think it's wildly awesome, definitely post a comment. I'd love to hear, yeah, you got to try this one. Just watching a playthrough, which I realize is not the full experience, I just felt like I didn't see any mechanisms there that really were like, yeah, I really got to get this one to the table or try it out. Seemed like there were other games that kind of did similar or the same things that I thought did them better. Aeon's End, I know there's folks that love this. I played this game. I had a meh, play of the game. I'm trying to think of what it is about Aeon's End that just kind of like meh to me. There's a little bit of a story, but I don't know. It's to me, I feel like the story is not the most engaging, and the mechanics are slightly, I don't know, convoluted is not the word. They're not like convoluted, but I didn't find the game to be terribly fun. I played it once and I was like, don't want to play that again. So that was my take on ANZ. I think I even won the game that I played, and it was just like, it didn't feel like, I don't know, it felt like a little bit like I got some luck. Some luck rolled my way, and I won the game, and I didn't get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So, okay, let's see. Agricola Revised Edition. I already spoke to that it was Agricola. Innis, I'm sure, is good. Doesn't have anything really. Just unsure. Probably have to play it sometime to know, but watched a playthrough or two, and nothing that would push it into the top 10 for me. Yokohama, I seriously considered. I have wrestled with this and I've played it several times on BGA. I like the game. I just had a hard time thinking that it would push out one of these other games, so I left it off, but maybe with a few more plays, I would consider moving that up the list. I need to probably play it a few more times, but I do enjoy it. It's a good game. Nothing bad to say about it. Santorini is a good game. Just didn't have enough meat, in my opinion, to move it up into this list. I've heard Secret Hitler was good. Haven't played it. I've heard Flamme Rouge is good. Haven't played that. Would like to try that one. King Domino I like. Just wasn't the top 10 worthy to me. Let's see. Evolution was fun. Played that. Codenames Pictures. I debated it, but the fact that I had Codenames in another list previously, I didn't push that one because I just kind of group all the Codenames together. Even though Pictures is a little different, I was tempted by Pictures because I like Pictures better. I kind of like playing with Pictures even more than the base game, but I have been outvoted every time when I push for that. So I think I am working on maybe trying to trade Pictures away because everybody just likes the base game, and that's fine. Let's see. I don't think there was a ton else on here that really drew my attention and got me excited. So that is pretty much, those are the only ones that would have given me any pause, and that pretty much covers it. So that is it. 2016 top 10 games. Thanks for joining me today. Post any comments, like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your afternoon.